IVM.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashtin Doctor, your habit coach, and today for the second time we have Mishti Khatri talking to us about her journey learning through the MSCM course on sports and exercise nutrition. And I've been wanting to have her on the podcast because it was a fascinating journey for her, full of self-experimentation and learning new things about the world of sports and exercise. And I think this is going to be a fantastic episode, especially if you're into this or you just want to learn and you're like me, just born curious about these things. So, Mishti, welcome to the Habit Coach podcast for a second time.
Thank you so much, Ashton. Thank you for having me again.
We had such an interesting talk just like 2 days ago about running.
Exactly.
And, all the things that you learned about this. But now I want to get into the geeky stuff.
Yes.
Like, what did you do when you did this course on exercise and sports nutrition? Like you were telling me about experiments.
Yes. So I think first a little backstory again, because I feel like it's important for people to understand where I'm coming from. So
Lovely.
I was always like a science geeky kind of nerd in school. I enjoyed bio. I hated physics. Sorry for all the engineers etc. out there. I did not like physics one bit. And I was always interested in bio a lot. I definitely knew I wanted to get into a paramedical line. But in the 12th grade, I really struggled with physics. And you needed physics and chem and bio, all three, to get into those courses. And so I decided, okay, fine, let it be. I'll do sport management. So I did BMS. So in my graduation, I graduated from Jayant. I did my bachelor's in management studies. And so then to make the switch to do an MSc, which is like a Master's of Science in Sport and Exercise Nutrition, was very difficult. So for the last 3 years before going for my course, I really had to build my resume. I got rejected also a couple of times. And then I had to really work on my profile, obviously get my personal training certification, because that's something else I wanted to have, but also do certain nutrition modules, courses. I did the IGNU nutrition course, the Indira Gandhi National Open University. They have a nutrition course. Did that. So I have some credits while applying to the universities abroad. So even getting there was such a big process for me, so that when I was finally in uni, I was so excited to learn after, 3 years of working. I was also very apprehensive and scared, because obviously the education system is very different, but it was such a fun experience. I can go back in a heartbeat.
Wow, crazy.
Yeah.
It's so fulfilling to get to that point after putting in that kind of hard work.
Yeah, and like visualizing yourself there, and I was very excited to finally be able to go. And I really, I'm very passionate about education in general. Like even when I was a personal trainer and I had done my nutrition modules, etc., I never did any nutrition consulting for anyone in the last 3 years, because I was like, no, once I have my degree, not even just a certificate, because I did have the certificate. I was like, only when I have my degree am I going to, I felt ethically allowed to then, participate and teach, consult as a nutritionist only after.
But why did you take on the nutrition aspect of exercise and sports and not the mechanical, physical aspects of it?
So I think there are two reasons to it. I was always, like I said, growing up, I was an overweight teenager, even though I was very sporty, did my training, everything. So I think it's a very important part of an athlete's journey, and I always wanted to be involved in it in some way. So I think there's a little secret over here. Like if I could be or do anything else, I would be an elite athlete representing India today. But since that ship has sailed right now, I'm working towards working with athletes in whatever capacity I can. So that's kind of where I realized that, yes, I enjoyed personal training a lot. And that's something that will always stay with me, and I will do on the side as much as possible. But just practically, I didn't think it was feasible for me in the long run, because I was kind of, when I was working, it was like waking up at 5 a.m., working till 8 p.m. because it's the number of hours in a day that you technically put in, you're getting back, but with nutrition, I had a lot more. And like say when I had my shoulder injury or anything, I couldn't work as a personal trainer to that capacity, So yeah, it was waking up and like, do I want to do this for the next 30 years or do I want to have a backup plan?
Lovely.
As
and I completely agree with you on this, because nutrition is actually one of the most important aspects of this whole exercise and fitness world, because it is it's something that you do every single day. There will be rest days with your exercise, but every single day, 3-4 times a day, you're constantly thinking about what am I putting in my mouth. And if you don't get that aspect right, no matter what else you do, is not going to be good enough. So I think nutrition is such an important aspect that we need to focus on at no matter what level of fitness we are at.
Exactly.
Whether you are at a high elite athlete level, and last week, in fact, we had an athlete who represents India in badminton, Tanvi Lad, on the Habit Coach podcast.
Lovely.
And she was talking about food as well, and she was saying that how do I maybe try fasting? How can I try fasting with my kind of a training schedule? So it's interesting about thinking about nutrition, and so it's important.
Exactly.
Now tell me about these experiments. I'm extremely excited about these experiments.
So when I went to university, obviously you have to write your statement of purpose. So in that, a lot of what I wrote about was running, like Nike, etc., running, all of that. And and how I, what I wanted to do with the course, etc. So running was a big part of it. So when I go there, they're like, oh, you like running, right? So I was like, yeah. And the thing is, there were only 5 people in my course. There were 2 boys who play rugby, another girl exactly, similar background like me. But she wasn't into running. She was more into strength training and different sides of sport. And then we had a 5th person as well, and the thing was, he was a little bit older than us and he had a knee injury, so he couldn't run. So I was technically the only person who could run. So they were like, we have this experiment that we want to do, and everything is obviously already charted out. So I reached in September, and this experiment was going to happen October end, kind of early November, and it was I had to run 2 half marathons on a treadmill. And if you're going to compare a high fat versus a high carb diet, and the effects on the endurance performance. So suddenly I was like, shit, and August, September, while coming up, I run in August 2019 in Oregon with Nike. So after that, I kind of took a break, because I was like getting ready to leave for university. So suddenly when I went, I was like, shit, I didn't expect to start running, and that too 21K on a treadmill with, all the aperture, like the gas mask and all, like they basically track your respiratory ratio and things like that. Through it. So I was like, okay, I need to start training for this. So it was like training for the runs and 3-4 times a week, just getting used to running on the treadmill. And the experiments were very cool because it was like one day I had to eat X amount of high carb food. Then the next day, then after that we took a 1 week like a washout period. And then the next week, it was like, say, Monday, I did a glycogen depletion workout. So basically, completely deplete the muscles out of glycogen, eat a standardized meal, and then the next day was either the high carb or the high fat diet. Because we didn't want any previous muscle glycogen to interfere with the results of the race.
What was your glycogen depletion workout like?
It was basically just interval running, like speed running on the treadmill. So it's a max capacity, like how many ever you could do. So it was depending on, I had to do a VO2 max test before that. And according to my VO2 max heart rate, like the heart rate which was at my VO2 max, there were different speeds and, no, sorry, not heart rate. So the highest speed I hit during my VO2 max workout, based off of that certain percentages, I had to run as many as I could do at, say, 90% of the max speed. Then as many as I could do at, so when I can't run anymore at 90%, I would drop down to 80, then 70, then 60, and then kind of you stop when it, and it was like a interval workout. So between each, I had a walk break, like a slow jog break. And that was the glycogen depletion workout. And then the next day was the high fat or high carb diet. So high carb, we meant like 10 grams per kg of body weight. So I am 50 kgs. So that was 500 grams of carbs I had to eat that day.
Nice.
So, and anyways, and even the calorie intake obviously went up, because we tried to match protein, and fat, we kept it very low. I think like it was very, very low, like something less than 20 grams, less than 10 grams, something like that of fat. It's very different. Obviously, to be practical also, because there is fat and carbs present in all.
You can't just have white rice.
Exactly. So it was like shoveling down like desserts and sweet yogurt.
Oh, it's that kind of the carb loading, huh?
Yeah, like we were trying to get it as much through clean sources or as much as what I regularly eat. But after a point, it was like, now you need to bump it up in some way or the other. So it was like literally having dessert at end of every meal, jam and crumpets and all these yummy high carb food. And then the next day I had my, actually I first did the high fat run. And that again was like, avocado.
What did you eat for the high fat?
Avocado, peanut butter. And when we went low carb, I think low carb was about 3 to 4 grams per kg of body weight. So that was still pretty high, like 150, 200 grams, what I would normally consume. So we still had enough sufficient carbs to work with. So it was like a wrap. I remember this very clearly. I had to make a chicken wrap for lunch. And we put avocado, peanut butter and cheese in it. So it looked like a very small, easy, tiny wrap, But when
it must just sat in your stomach.
It was like a calorie bomb. It was like 800, 900 calories for that one wrap. So this is another thing I want to let people know, that calories can add up. Even though it looked like a very small, easy wrap, it was like...
Correct.
So just be mindful about the ingredients.
The innocence behind it.
Exactly. Like, people go on this health trip about, peanut butter, avocado, everything in moderation. That's just a little... Yeah.
But when Mishti, tell me, you weren't fat adapted for this particular thing. Like you hadn't gone through a cycle of fasting or ketosis or any of that to get into it.
No.
Okay.
No. It was a very how do I put it? It was very quick in a way that, a lot of people do this. A lot of people suddenly go high fat, without, like you said, without being fat adapted or things like that. So just to kind of understand the acute that's the word I was looking for, the acute adaptations to either. But so I did whatever. Then the next, so I say Monday I had the glycogen, Tuesday I had the high carb or high fat, Wednesday I had my run. So now during the high fat run, I wasn't allowed to have any like sugars or whatever during the run, just water was fine. But during the high carb one, I had to have like gels at a certain time, etc. And I kind of started, feeling my stomach go while doing the high carb workout.
Why? Because there was just too much coming in?
Yeah, too many carbs coming in. So especially from the gels, etc. There was just too much carbs, and I started feeling that gastrointestinal, stress, and I had to slow down my pace because I felt like I had to stop and go to the bathroom or throw up, either of the two outcomes. And honestly speaking, between the high carb and high fat diet, there was barely, I think, a minute difference where I was faster in the 1 minute in the high carb. Obviously, at an elite level, that makes a very big difference because there they are fighting per second. Yeah, like the margins are very, very low over there. But for a general runner, I think it just gave us a good idea of, and we are obviously taking like blood lactate, respiratory ratio, so you can understand, when you're on when you're working with high fat, when you're working with high carb, what were the different, like I don't remember it exactly to quote it right now. But just,
overall, which one had the better parameters? Not just your timing, but your overall parameters?
The high carb had better parameters, definitely. And just like, and this was basically coming off of other research papers and all also that we had read. And there was a really good study done by Louise Burke. She's a very big sport nutritionist in Australia and very senior sport. So she did this with elite race walkers. And they obviously had a very rigorous program where it was over months, where the athletes were fat adapted, extremely low carb. So like almost, I think in a ketogenic state, if I'm not wrong. And in that also they found out that a high fat diet and a high fat adaptation impairs your carbohydrate oxidation in your body.
Yeah.
So if you are a fat adapted athlete, obviously you're not able to perform at that level of high intensity, because I think now the literature is pretty clear and pretty certain that for high intensity exercise you do need carbohydrates. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who will differ with what I'm saying, but I'm just talking about like the general consensus that seems to be out there now. There may be exceptions to that kind of norm, but it was very clear that for yes, there is a place for a low carb, high carb kind of cycling during your training, because it is important to also gain those fat adaptations, because that so the thing of the fat adaptation coming in is that during the initial bit before you get into an extremely high intensity state is that it's preserving your glycogen, your muscle glycogen, to then help you get that sprint finish and etc. So there is a place for it for sure, don't get me wrong. But when it comes to purely on a performance basis, black and white, a high carb would essentially be superior.
And I was reading a lot about ultra marathoners and people doing some insane amount of kilometers. And for them, that mix of carb and fat in each of the the meals during the race is important, because what happens if you're just doing a high carb, there's a cliff that you fall off.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You suddenly lose all your energy. Phat karke. Yeah. What that fat adaptation plus the fat that you're getting in the form of, maybe you make these little balls filled with dates and peanut butters, etc. That calorie combination bombs really helps. Yeah, those calorie bombs, right?
Yeah.
And that helps you maintain that energy through the entire 100 kilometers plus that you are doing.
Definitely. And what I was talking about was like, say for so ultra endurance is a different sport only. You can't compare that to marathon running. So marathon training, an elite marathoners are now running like less than 2 hours, 5 minutes, 2 hours, 10 minutes. We've broken the 2-hour barrier with Elite Kipchoge, etc. So it's a very different ball game when you talk about ultra endurance, because they are running over days and 100 hours and whatnot, So there's a very big gap that comes in over there. Yeah.
So tell me something. What did you study about? What are the best supplements for pre-workout, post-workout recovery? What are your favorite things that you learned from this course?
Yeah, so I think what I learned from this course is that there is no definitive answer for anything. Honestly speaking, it's like
full marks.
Yeah, there is. Today you ask me what is the best thing to have. There's no one. There's never going to be that magic cure, even talking simply about say metabolic diseases like your diabetes, hypertension, things like that. The best reverser of those, so people say, oh, I'm on a keto diet because I'm diabetic, I'm on this diet because I have this, and the biggest reverser of these is weight loss. So there have been studies which have compared keto, high carb, paleo, like different diets, and what has reversed all the metabolic conditions has only been weight loss and eating clean. I mean, clean as in eating more vegetables, eating more fruits. That, these are very simple things. So it's not how you did it. It's the fact that you lost weight. Now, then it depends what works for you, what is sustainable for you in the long run. Yeah.
And in fact, it's a chicken and egg story, huh, Mishti? It is that you did these things, that's why you lost weight.
Yeah.
And or you lost weight, so all your parameters came down.
Yeah.
We're seeing a rise in the skinny fat generation.
Yes.
Which are people who are thin on the outside, but actually the insides are that of a type 2 diabetic.
Yeah.
Because they are high in visceral fat. Visceral fat?
Yes.
Yeah, visceral fat.
Around the organs.
Around the organs. And this is again coming from the kind of food choices that they're making and sedentary lifestyle.
For sure.
It's just that they're not putting on fat on the outside. So,
for sure,
that those lifestyle changing diseases, illnesses are so important, and we need to get to that.
Yeah.
And especially during this time of Corona, there's no better time to start making those changes than now.
I agree completely, right? Because it's so clear. Obviously, there will always be exceptions to healthy people passing away from the disease, but the likelihood, if you have the high risk patients, are all people with diabetes, hypertension. So how these lifestyle diseases can then, in a state of a pandemic, it's a very clear like you are at a disadvantage if you have these, obviously, apart from the long-term causes that they have. But yeah, just, kind of coming back to what we were talking about, like different performance aids, and there were definitely a few supplements that stood out. But again, like I want to put this disclaimer out before I start talking about anything else. It's called a supplement because it supplements a balanced diet, a balanced lifestyle. It is not going to be any magic pill, any magic cure for anything. So,
correct.
And again, the timing of when you have it is very nuanced as well. So things like caffeine, very important for, it may not work as well for, say, an ultra and endurathon or ultra marathon because of, you'll have to very strategically have it because they need to sleep also in between, so it shouldn't affect their sleep.
Right.
Yeah, because a lot of them take quick power naps and they have these things that they do. And say if someone, esports, like video gaming is now considered a sport in itself. So a lot of caffeinated products are marketed to them, Red Bull, Monster, these drinks. So for them also, if they have too much of it, they lose focus while doing the game. So there have been studies done which track their eye movements.
Yes.
And it starts to get more frantic because their brains get too overworked and overbuzzed on the caffeine. So there, it can also go wrong. And obviously caffeine has a legal limit in the drug association. So the WADA has legal limits set for caffeine. So if you've finished a race and they do your drug test after and the caffeine limits are very high, your time won't be counted.
Oh, interesting. I had no idea about this.
Yeah. So it used to be banned. They've recently taken it off the ban limit, but with certain usage. So caffeine is...
So you couldn't have a black coffee and go for a run?
Yes.
Earlier on?
Yes, you can.
Wow.
Yeah, you can. You couldn't... if you were racing. You
couldn't do that.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So just tell everyone how caffeine works. Like, why is it a performance aid?
So it is a stimulant, definitely. So it and in fact, caffeine is very interesting because they've done studies where they've told people that I'm giving you the placebo and actually given caffeine, or told them that they're giving them caffeine and actually given them a placebo. And people who were given the placebo but told they got caffeine, they still performed better. Because the minute you say, I'm having caffeine, coffee or whatever, you start feeling energetic, even though there may not be anything in it. So the placebo effect is very real. So it helps to kind of, like we spoke about in the first podcast, the rate of perceived exertion. It helps to kind of lower that. So even though you may be going at X speed, it may help it feel a little bit easier.
Okay.
And obviously, because it is a central nervous system, like a stimulator for your nerves, it helps you to maybe push a little bit longer than you probably would have been able to go. And like I said, because it's making the effort seem easier, you can probably push a little bit more as well.
Nice.
So then again,
it basically doesn't make you feel tired, right? It
delays that. It delays that a little bit. The feeling of that fatigue settling in. And it has stimulatory effects, and depends again on which sport. Like I said, esports or even rifle shooting, for them accuracy and all is very important. Now if they've had too much
you can't use caffeine on rifle shooting. Oh
exactly.
God, that would be like a disastrous thing. And, in fact, there's so many fun studies done on caffeine because, as everybody who listens to the podcast knows, I love my coffee.
Yeah.
And I've done so many podcasts on it. So they gave caffeine to a spider.
Oh,
right? All the spider webs looked like they were made by a drunk spider.
Yeah.
It's hilarious to see the effects that it had on...
Actually, I've read a very good book on sleep. It's called Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew.
Yeah. Correct.
Matthew Walker, if I'm not mistaken. And in that, he actually puts a diagram. He talks about, because obviously as a sleep specialist, they are very against caffeine consumption, which again has its rightful place, So when you have caffeine also as an athlete, you need to know what time to have it, because at the end of the day, your sleep is the main foundation.
Absolutely.
And for your recovery and your training as well. So yeah,
Okay.
they put that up where, it's like LSD is something, this thing, and caffeine is the most like mismatched.
Spider web.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the book is lying around here somewhere while we sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, so caffeine 1, performance 8. Tell me a few others.
There's beetroot juice.
Okay.
So that's basically your dietary nitrates. That's really
Right.
good for
Your vasodilators.
Exactly. Your vasodilators are important. But again, there are certain events which will help with, certain events which it won't. There are things like if you have the beetroot juice and you've had an antibacterial mouthwash, it won't work because the bacteria in your throat convert it from, I think, from nitrite to nitrate. One conversion happens in the throat which allows it to then. So if you've had an antibacterial mouthwash or are on antibiotics, it won't work because you've killed those bacteria.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And how long do you take the beetroot shot before you actually go and work out?
You need to take it at least 2 to 3 hours before you start.
3 hours?
Yeah, 2 to 3 hours.
So it's not a pop and go for it?
No. Because obviously it gets digested, then the plasma levels have to rise to a certain level for it to have a performance effect. And again, the literature on beetroot is a little bit mixed. There are certain sports, a lot more research needs to be done on it, which is happening. So that's good.
Correct.
Yeah.
I normally use citrulline malate as a vasodilator before my workouts. And I also use it for my high altitude sports.
Of course.
So when I'm trekking, I use citrulline malate if I'm feeling a little woozy. Because it just basically, the vasodilation is what we need.
Is that more of an acute effect? Does that happen almost immediately?
It takes about an hour.
Okay. Yeah.
So in an hour, you start feeling the effects.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off. Just coming back to caffeine, even that, if you're having coffee, it takes usually about 45 minutes to an hour. But if you're having a caffeinated chewing gum or a caffeine tablet, then that could be more fast acting, like 15 minutes or something like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, we did a very nice podcast on the coffee nap.
Okay. Yeah.
So what you do is you basically take you have your coffee and then go to sleep because the caffeine hasn't hit it.
Yeah. And then
about 25 minutes.
Yeah.
You're wide awake and ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good one.
It's
the
so much
coffee
fun.
nap, actually, I've tried it out, especially, if you're on a crunch, you have a busy day or whatever, it really helps with that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a vasodilator, we have caffeine.
Yes, a stimulant.
What else?
I actually did my dissertation on collagen, which is a kind of protein. It's probably I can literally start quoting my dissertation.
Tell, come on.
It is literally the most abundant form of protein in your body. So because it makes your bones, it makes your tendons, it makes your ligaments. So I was researching on its effects on performance and recovery from injuries, etc. So not only as an osteoarthritis kind of a tool, because a lot of people have it for when they're suffering from degenerative joint disorders, but for athletes to help with their recovery, to help with injuries, like I mentioned, I have been plagued with them, as all runners, etc. have. So
yes.
It really helps, again, with, there are different dosages that you can have. It cannot, I wouldn't say it would replace, say, a whey protein supplement. It won't work for muscle building, etc. But
not at all,
yes, but it helps a lot with healing faster. Again, allowing for lesser pain while working out, longer durations of pain-free activity. So about 5 grams to 10 grams, 15 grams. There have been different studies. I wouldn't say there is a one fixed dose for it right now.
When would you take it?
You take it at least 60 minutes before exercise, because if you take it prior to exercise, it helps, because exercise also adds a positive load to your tendons, which helps them to get stronger. So when the collagen and exercise work together, they may have a synergistic effect in helping you recover faster. And obviously there's blood flow to the your tendons don't really receive any blood flow, but when you're working out, your muscles get a lot of blood flow, and the tendons and joints surrounding it are also then kind of hit with it. So
interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
I normally have my collagen at night. So what I do is I make a whey protein pudding, where I take my whey protein, I put my collagen inside there, mix it up, add some cocoa, and it turns into a pudding. So that's what I normally have, because collagen in any case becomes
Yeah,
but can you have veg or vegan collagen? Does it exist?
It exists.
Do you think it's actually?
It exists, and actually, I wrote this as a limitation in my dissertation, saying that there hasn't been any studies. Like literally, all the papers that I went through, there were almost zero studies done on vegan or vegetarian sources of collagen.
Correct.
So you can't be for sure that it'll work, because unless the research doesn't say it, it's you shouldn't believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, when people say that they have vegan collagen, it was one of those big question marks for me, saying that how can you get vegan collagen?
Yeah,
it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so good. Good I asked this question.
Yeah, exactly.
And but one funny side effect of having collagen that I found.
Yeah.
My eyebrows started to grow faster.
No way, eyebrow hair.
Yeah, I have like these strands of hair that suddenly started growing much faster than
it's
anything
also
else.
used as a skin supplement, and you were just talking about the
anti-aging aspects.
Yeah,
of it.
Exactly. So I'm not surprised if it's aiding with that. It doesn't have biotin or anything else in it.
No, nothing. I have biotin separately, but this was just collagen that
That's
I
really
noticed.
Interesting.
It's really funny. I never had these hairs sticking out suddenly with collagen when I started supplementing with them. But what's interesting is that the way that we deplete our collagen, it actually takes about 7 years to get back to that healthy level of collagen if we've been depleted through it. So it's one of the supplements that I strongly suggest if we ever do have an anti-aging mindset. And I think we should want to have the healthiest body we can for the longest possible time. So you must use some form of collagen along the way.
How is it depleted? I'm sorry, I'm not aware of that. Could you explain?
So the way that it works is that we don't necessarily get enough sources of collagen.
Fair enough.
So, when we start thinking about the traditional food that all of us used to have, and I'm talking about meats, especially non-vegetarians, like you look at the Chinese, they have tendon soup. Correct? So you're getting tendons and collagen from there. You used to have bone broths because everything used to be cooked in that format. Now when we have boneless chicken or boneless meat, we're not getting the collagen that exists in the tendons around it. And more importantly, what started happening is the that we started evolving into these finer cuts of meat and all of that. So it's just completely gone out the window. And I think also meat is getting a bad rep right now. So a large part of it. Hence, not enough collagen's coming into our body.
Fair enough.
And the depletion starts taking place in terms of, right?
The
skin starts sagging.
Makes sense.
Your hair starts losing its vitality. And those are all aspects of nutritional deficiencies. Collagen being one of them.
That makes sense. Because earlier you used to have your paya soup and this, that.
There you go.
So people were asking what are the natural sources. I said, see, the natural sources are like even things like gelatin, like jelly. Now a lot of people have agar-agar or vegetarian sources of jelly which don't provide. So in fact, like a good way to have collagen is also jelly, the gelatin.
Yes.
But like a sugar-free version. And in fact, like another thing about collagen is like when you have it with vitamin C. Now the exact dose of vitamin C hasn't been established. But in general, if you have it with a vitamin C, it helps with the collagen synthesis because the vitamin C acts like a catalyst to help promote through other factors, not directly acting on collagen, but through other sources which are needed for the production of collagen. So basically like hydroxylation of different amino acids, it helps with then producing collagen. So things like these are important, like little tips, to how to maximize it. If you're anyways having it, get your, your bang for buck kind of thing.
Absolutely. Okay, so good. Luckily, I'm having my collagen at night along with my vitamin C. So
that's good. Perfect. Yes.
Not to have vitamin D at night. These are interesting things that you learn about.
Exactly. Even B12 and things like that, they are like kind of, they wake you up, so it's no point having it at night. Like magnesium you should take before sleeping.
Correct.
Because
do you have a special magnesium that you like taking or you studied?
Not necessarily. Nothing that I specifically studied, but Dr. Rashi Khatri, right? So she told me to start taking magnesium, and she specified, I think, cobalamin.
Doctor's best.
Yeah, or something like that. There's a special. I'm forgetting it. Something I'm saying it wrong, but something cobal, something like that, and that's the kind of magnesium you should take because the absorption of that is the best. So people usually have magnesium oxide, which is not as well absorbed as the other sources.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I normally take magnesium citrate post-workout during the day.
Yeah.
And then I'll take magnesium glycinate at night.
Yeah.
So magnesium glycinate helps with your sleep a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's how I play with my magnesium. Okay,
Yes.
perfect. What other performance aids have you looked at across the board in terms of nutrition especially?
So there have been other things like cherry juice.
Cherry juice?
Cherry juice.
Tell me about that. I don't know anything about cherry juice.
The antioxidants present in it.
Okay.
So there are certain pigments in it. There's blueberries. Then, so there are basically a lot of like antioxidant kind of basically coming from your fruits and veggies only, but there's not like so things like cherry juice and the blueberries and all, they can get very expensive also to supplement, So I wouldn't recommend it to everyone as yet, because you can, as much as you can get the different colored fruits and vegetables from your diet, like even your brinjal, the skin of it, things like that, they do have similar pigments with blueberries. And so just try to get more. This is the one advice which I will give anybody everywhere in the world: have as many colored fruits and vegetables as you can. Fruits, again, some people are on a 1 fruit a day, 2 fruit a day limit, but I'd say 2 to 3 is good, depending on good portion sizes. So not obviously overeating them either, but vegetables as many as you can get in a day is good enough. And again, different colored.
The colors are especially important because of something called polyphenols that exist. So these are your polyphenols that come in the form of pigmentation and things.
Exactly.
So very, very important to have. Mishti, antioxidants.
Yes.
When should you have them according to the science?
So there's no particular time. Ideally, you should have it with every meal. And like I mentioned, try to get it through natural food sources as much as possible, because the bioavailability is not as good as when you're having it through tablets. And don't even overdo it on the antioxidants, ideally speaking, unless you're really going through something and it's been recommended by your doctor to take it. I wouldn't recommend too much of antioxidants, because those free radicals that are released, they do have certain beneficial effects as well. So
correct,
you don't want to overdo it on the antioxidants, because everything is sold as an antioxidant these days.
Absolutely.
Everything.
Antioxidant and now immunity boosting.
Yeah.
Those two things.
Exactly. Everything coming to immunity boosting. Obviously people have, there is something to all that. I wouldn't lie. Some things Western science may not understand about our, Eastern kind of cultures which we have, like our kadha and haldi, this, that and all. Yeah. All that haldi, etc. Now they have caught on to curcumin and golden milk and latte, etc. But again, the doses that you need of those, and in those experiments that you're doing, you don't get from that pinch of haldi in your water. Sure, if someone feels it, like I said, the placebo effect is very high, is huge.
Yeah.
So don't undermine that at all. So if someone thinks that haldi ka doodh is helping them, or the immunity boosting water is helping them, it probably is, But the doses that they use in those studies are often so high that you don't get it. You may need to then have it via a supplement,
Absolutely. I have multiple haldi chais and all of that during your day.
Exactly.
And
you start getting yellow
something
on
so
your
important.
Yeah.
Jaundice. So Mishti said something very important. She said that don't overdo the antioxidants, because it's so important that for example, exercise is oxidative stress, but that is good oxidative stress. So in fact, don't have antioxidants, for example, immediately after working out. Like vitamin C after working out is going to do the exact opposite of what you want. So in fact, have your vitamin C's and everything, space them away. Post-workout, focus on your nutrition, but focus on the recovery nutritions and those aspects.
Exactly. So there's this really good study done by, I don't remember his first name, but because usually it's the last name that's mentioned in studies. So Dr. Nielsen, on immunity, on improving your immunity. And the study found out, and he has done a study and systematic reviews, etc. So then they have come to the conclusion that the best way, the best immunity booster is carbohydrates. So after your workout, if you are in an extremely depleted carbohydrate state, that is when you are in that, there is definitely, when you're exercising, after you finish exercising, there is a drop in your immunity. So you are more prone to falling ill, etc. So the best way to get rid of it is have a carbohydrate and protein, basically a good meal after it. Balance with your carbs, protein, and fats, with a little bit importance on your post workout carbs.
Yeah. In fact, during this whole lockdown, I kept telling people right in the beginning, do not go hard on your exercise, because you don't want to drop your immunity because of that exercise, because that would be completely foolish. So do your moderate amount of training, but do it consistently, because now you're at home and you have the ability to do it consistently, and use the consistency to improve, not that going hard constantly.
You know, in fact, people took this exercise thing. I was listening to another podcast, and in that they said that some people were recommending not to work out, but the advantages of working out are also very high over the disadvantage of your immunity dropping for that little bit of time, which is very easily compatible, you know, by having the right nutrition after.
Correct. Yeah. You know, and the workout is important at multiple levels. One is, of course, the metabolic activity of working out. So you're getting rid of the excess sugar that you consumed. But the other aspect, for example, just the movement of that exercise moves lymph in your body. So lymph is something that most people don't talk about at all, but it's an important circulatory system. So like, for example, we have our cardiovascular system. So we have our heart that pumps the blood, but there's no pump for lymph. And lymph is the fluid that moves away all your waste products at a cellular level in your body. And movement is the only way that lymph gets out of your system, which is why we feel so good after, for example, a rebounder workout or jumping on a trampoline. So, you know, like I have a vibration plate here, which I stand on to get the lymph moving in the body. So, you know, doing these things are extremely important because it helps your immunity dramatically.
Exactly. For sure. It does have a very important, you know, effect. And again, I think mood boosting, like exercise, the happy hormones that you get after you're done working out, that was such an important aspect of, you know, people starting to, like we mentioned in the last podcast, people starting to run, cycle, because I think people just wanted, you know, that runner's high is real. Like I can tell for a fact I felt it, you know. So and
the feeling that you get afterwards, it's the cheapest antidepressant that you'll get on the market. Get some sunshine, get some exercise, cheapest antidepressant that you have. And it's so funny that we're recording this on World Mental Health Day, so snuck that in.
Nice.
Super.
Yes.
Mishti, anything else you want to share with us that we didn't cover that you found interesting?
I mean, I can honestly go on about a lot of things, but I feel some of the important, takeaways that I'd want people to have after listening to this podcast is that at the end of the day, you need to do what is right for you, what suits you. As a nutritionist, I personally don't believe in giving people eat X, Y, Z at this meal, eat at that meal. My job as a nutritionist is to educate you to make healthier choices, to make better choices. Obviously, when it comes to hopefully when I start working with my elite level athletes, that's when, you know, I'll be doing a little bit more hand holding. But for the general population, I don't want to have people dependent on me. So that is kind of what you should hope for, that you achieve that kind of independence, be able to make right food choices. And just do what suits you. Like we even mentioned previously, like the biggest reverser of most of these metabolic diseases that we spoke about was weight loss. So, you know, how you achieved it, sure, it may have long-term implications, but in the current wave, all the parameters got reversed through either diet that you chose. So,
correct. Absolutely. And I think the big takeaway from this is start experimenting. You know, start trying new things. Like Mishti was trying a high carb, high fat, different kinds of, diets while running. To see what your sweet spot is.
Exactly.
So don't just say, I have read this, so I'm going to do this. Read it, do it, try it. If it works, yay. Otherwise, try something else.
Exactly.
And keep experimenting, keep growing, because that's the only way to continue.
Yeah, definitely. That's so true. And I think, like, again, make sure you're eating your fruits and vegetables. Have a balanced diet. I mean, this is a little bit controversial. So when the whole Game Changers thing came out, I know a lot of people who overnight went vegan. And sure, if you're doing it for ethical purposes, for the environment, I completely understand where you're coming from. But if you're telling me for performance benefits, I have years of scientific research backing me, showing that meat or dairy are not going to hamper your exercise performance and may actually aid it. Like the quality protein that you get from your dairy and meat sources is unmatched in terms of bioavailability. Yeah, sure, science is progressing. You are getting better vegan supplements, etc. But there is a little it still can't compare to your dairy and meat, in my opinion, as of now. So yeah, just make informed choices.
I'm going to say something here. I'm going to cut you off.
Yes.
Because it's so funny that the video that I'm recording for next week or the week after is vegetarianism killing you? Because, what we suddenly realized is, and I know it's going to be a controversial video. This is going to be on our Awesome 180 channel. And because it's going to be controversial because we think vegetarianism is good for us. And India has some of the highest rates of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, etc. And it's the most vegetarian country that is there around. So what's going on here? Right? It's not that only the meat eaters are getting these things.
Exactly.
The problem is that our definition of vegetarian food is wrong. And which is why we are suffering these things.
Yeah, exactly.
We are vegetarians not eating vegetables.
Yeah, I agree. And that is so well said. Because even on the Game Changers, when they show the firemen, that scene with the firefight, you see you're giving them big bags of fresh fruits and vegetables. And firemen, they have very hectic, their sleep schedules are very erratic. They're very likely eating on the go. If you take a vegan, just a vegan person who has purely, those processed vegan meats, those vegan sausages, constantly
unhealthy.
Exactly. And you have a meat eater who eats a plate of, say, chicken and broccoli. He is giving a very basic comparison. He is eating healthier compared to him. So veganism doesn't mean just being healthy,
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know why I'm giving away all these future episodes, but the next episode coming out this week is going to be about, don't look at the first part of what you're eating, look at the second part. So a vegan brownie is still a brownie. Right? A keto brownie is still a brownie. Sugar-free cookie is still a cookie.
That's actually the best thing you could have said, because at the name of veganism and keto and God knows, and I'm like, 1 second, this keto dessert, like a keto cake, has more calories than your normal cake. So what is your trade-off here,
And you need to, because I was like, no, I started having keto pizza. Yay! Okay. And keto this, but like, what about real food? Are you having your vegetables? And like, I'm a hardcore non-vegetarian. But I have, like, I put pictures of my meals on board where I have more vegetables than the meat. And that is how you should be eating.
Exactly.
Your meat should be a condiment.
Exactly. I completely agree with that.
Wow, what a rant we went on vegetarianism. All right, I love it. Okay, great.
Parsis and Sindhis coming together, na, that's why.
What can you expect?
Yeah.
We need to have a Dhansa Took combination.
Epic, I'm down for that.
Like Took is just mind-blowing, right? You take potato, you fry it, you crush it, you fry it, you crush it. Like how many times?
Tomorrow Sunday, and I'm already dreaming about the Took that I'm gonna have.
Awesome. Mishti, where can people get in touch with you?
So you can email me at mishtikhatri15@gmail.com if you have any important questions, queries, or you can always reach out to me on Instagram. It's Mishti Khatri. And I put out a lot of different videos on different topics, and even a lot about running, a lot about supplements. In fact, recently only I put out a post about caffeine supplementation, have other things in the pipeline. So that'll be a good place to follow me.
Nice. Fun.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mishti, for being on the Habit Coach podcast. Absolutely loved it.
Thank you so much, Ashton. It's always so easy to talk to you.
If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashton Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com, or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME180. That's Awesome 180.
I hope you enjoyed that show. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And speaking of Instagram, Niharika Pandey joined Cyrus this week on Cyrus Says. Niharika is the strategic partner manager for Instagram India. Great conversation about the plans for Instagram in India. Karanjit Kaur joined the guys at Uncle Please Sit. Another really interesting conversation about the patriarchy. On Advertising is Dead, old friend Suchita Salwan showed up. Suchita is the founder of LBB. Great conversation she had with Varun. Definitely do check that out as well. Tanvi Lad, who is a nationally ranked badminton player, was on the Habit Coach with Ashton Doctor. Great conversation. I would highly recommend that. The Football Shitwall guys are back. They've been back for a few weeks, but definitely do check out their latest episode. Great conversation they had. On Aditi Surana's Absolutely Right, Manju Sara Rajan was the guest, and again, a great conversation was to be had over there. As always, great conversations all across the board. Check out some of the other stuff like Smile India and Know Your Kanun and All Things Policy. All of them had fresh episodes this week, but with that, I hope to see you again next week.
Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta. I'm B50 on Twitter. I am the host of Paisa Paisa, the show that talks money. On my show, I speak to experts from every field of money and finance, from stock markets, equities, debt funds, credit cards, life insurance, every possible area of money and finance that you can think of. We even did an episode on cryptocurrency. I've got fantastic guests from mutual funds to personal finance experts everywhere. Robo-advisory, startups, just name it, we've got it. At Paisa Paisa, we help you make smart decisions about money. You work hard for money. Now make your money work hard for you. New episodes out every Monday, and you can listen to my show on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you have.